So the purpose of this webinar is to raise your awareness that Northamptonshire Community Foundation are one of many organisations that offer funding to community groups and registered charities. Hopefully you'll find this webinar useful and you will leave with resources that you need to do the research on your own to find funding opportunities. Everything in this presentation will be linked, and I will share all of the slides with you after, and all of the links to the funds we talk about and any documents that can help with the guidance. So what we will cover is why look for other sources of funding in the first place, some quick funding tips, your local infrastructure organisation, local funders, national funders, some fundraising ideas, and lastly, some resources to take with you so you can research your own funding, and hopefully that'll make it a little bit of an easier process for you. So why look for other sources of funding in the first place? Grants tend to have a short-term nature and rarely last longer than 3 years, meaning if you intend to continue your project, you must have a strategy for a longer term plan. Funding can be oversubscribed, so the total amount of grant funding received by voluntary and community sector has fallen in recent years and is likely to fall further, coupled with more and more organisations looking for funding. There's a great competition out there. And also the time it takes to submit an application and receive a response. So on average, you should hear a response between 2 to 6 months. So you might need to look for other sources of funding to fill some gaps. So things to consider before actually applying for funding is you need to outline exactly what you want to achieve and how you will do this. This will help you narrow your search down and determine which funds are best to apply for. So I've just put on the screen there, it's called the T-GROW exercise. And this is a tool to help you break down your project. For example, if you're thinking about a topic, ask yourself, what is the issue? Could it be isolation, homelessness, wanting to improve people's well-being? Next, you will need to define your aims by asking how you will achieve this and what you need to achieve your goal. It's also really important to assess where you are now. So do you have enough support, staff support, volunteer support, resources, extra funds for the project, as this will help you determine what you need. Explore new possibilities with partnerships or in-kind support like volunteers, venue, equipment. Funders like to see that you're exploring new opportunities. Lastly, how committed are you? You will need to allocate quite a bit of time planning, creating a budget and completing the actual application itself. As well as, doing the budget can take a while as well. So making sure that you have plenty of time to commit. So some little tips that I have when it comes to actually applying with the application is to first and foremost, it might seem, all of these points might seem a bit obvious, but they're still very important, is to check that your organisation or project is actually eligible. Because we still see NCF applications come through, and they're very worthy projects, but unfortunately the group don't have all the supporting documents in place, meaning they aren't eligible. And it's such a shame because obviously a lot of time and effort goes into writing these applications. So to save yourself some time, make sure you check you're eligible first. A really good tip before you apply as well is look at what they have previously funded. This will give you an idea whether your project is something that they would consider, and if it isn't, then you're going to save time by deciding not to put your effort in and apply there and seek funding from a different funder. Save your application as you go. Again, a very obvious one, but a very important one, because applications tend to be done on a portal. And as I'm sure we're all aware, you can't rely on technology, and sometimes applications can get lost or deleted. So just make sure you're copy and pasting it into a Word document just in case that does happen. The next tip is be specific. I think it's quite easy when you're writing an application to get into detailed impact and the need of the project that you almost lose the specifics. For example, if you're running an event, what date is the event, what the venue is, expected attendees, how long the event's going for, the amount of staff you have on support, that kind of thing tends to get missed out, but it's very important. So make sure that you break it down a lot. Focus on funders' priorities. So that's the same with looking on their website at what projects they've previously funded, again, just to save yourself some time. Take advantage of application reviews. So at NCF, we offer reviews on your applications before you submit it, so we can give you some feedback, whether some pointers for you to improve your application, and even let you know the things that you've done really well. A lot of funders have this, and I know that the Arts Council are really good at providing feedback even when the application's been declined. So definitely take advantage of whatever you can get. And last, keep track of deadlines. Again, a very obvious one, but there are a lot of funding pots out there that are that don't have further rounds. They stand alone, and once the deadline is gone, you can't apply again. So keep track of deadlines to ensure that you're not missing out on opportunities. So moving on to Northamptonshire's local infrastructure organisations. Hopefully you've heard of these already, but if you haven't, they are organisations within the county that offer a wide range of support to community groups, which includes startup advice, information on governance, policies, procedures, training sessions, workshops. They offer one-to-one advice. They offer help with identifying funding. So it's really good to utilise these organisations. I will send out their contact details after the session, and definitely sign up to their newsletters. It sounds like a really, getting loads of newsletters in our inbox, but these ones are really important because they send you the latest funding information. So I find it really useful just to keep on top of what new funds are out there. So I'm sure you will too. So definitely sign up to their newsletters. I will share their contact details with you after. So before we move on to national funders, there will be funding available to you locally. These are good to apply to as they are specifically for Northamptonshire, meaning that there's less competition as they're not receiving applications from all over the country, which is great. So I will briefly touch upon these ones. So West Northants Council, they have a range of funding pots. So they've currently got their Household Support Fund 5, which is supporting projects that help households struggling financially. They've got their Arts and Culture Grant Scheme. They also have their discretionary, can't say that word, Community Grant Scheme, which means that it doesn't have to fit into a specific project. It just has to align with their strategic aims, which is all on their websites. And all of the funds they currently have open now, they close on the 26th of June. So if you're thinking about applying, the deadline's creeping up quite soon. The same with Northamptonshire Council. They have their community funding pot, which you can apply to up to £5,000 for that, and that's to improve the quality of life for local residents. They have other various funds, but I haven't included them here today just because the deadlines are today. So I thought that would be quite harsh to tell you that there's all these funds available, but you can't apply. But keep an eye on their website, because there's always funds that are available to apply to. So Northamptonshire Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, they also have a couple of funds that you can apply to. They've got their Making Northants Safer Fund, which you can apply from £3,000 to £10,000 for early intervention, robust enforcement and supporting victims of crime. They also have their smaller grants scheme, which supports their wider crime plan And town councils also have grants available. So I know that Northampton do, Daventry do, Brackley do, and plenty of others do. So it's always worth just looking at their website. They also usually have the councillors' community fund as well. So definitely keep an eye on your local town council's website. Um, Northampton, Corby and Daventry also have a local lottery where groups can set up a page for free and then supporters buy local lottery tickets from their page, and a percentage is given to your organisation. So that's helpful. And you've also got Click Arts Foundation, which is a local funder funding projects to do with arts. And now, hopefully you're aware of some of the local opportunities available to you. We'll begin looking at national funders. So beginning with the National Lottery, they have a wide range of funds, and I'm sure if you're not aware of them already, you've definitely heard of them or seen their logo on someone's poster somewhere. They are the largest funder in the UK and responsible for distributing funds raised by the lottery for good causes. They have their Awards for All grant, which is between £300 and £10,000, which is a rolling programme. So there's no deadline, so you can apply at any time. So that's a really good one to keep at the back of your mind if you haven't applied to them already. They also have their Reaching Communities Fund, which is a larger fund. It starts at £10,000 and it's for a 5-year period. And they go on to have much larger funds like their Million Hours, Extra Youth Time Fund, and the UK Fund and Partnership Fund. So definitely keep an eye on their website and bear in mind their community fund, as it's a very useful one to know. So moving on, I won't stay there too quickly. So the Arts Council is another very popular fund that if you haven't heard of, you probably have seen it somewhere. They like to fund projects with the focus on arts. The great thing about applying to this organisation, like I said, is that even if your application is unsuccessful, they will often give you detailed feedback, which is always very useful. So they have their Develop Your Creative Practice Fund, which is between £2,000 and £12,000. The applications for this open on the 25th of July. And it's to support individuals who are culturally and creative practitioners and want to take time to focus on their creative development. They also have their National Lottery Project Grant, which is also a rolling programme. It's an open access programme for arts, libraries, museum projects, and they're currently prioritised supporting grassroots music and museum projects. And you can apply between, you can choose whether you would like to apply for up to £30,000 or over £30,000. So they offer funding for community groups, but also individuals. So it's worth knowing about for your beneficiaries. I know of one group that we work with, and one of their beneficiaries secured an Arts Council grant for themselves, which is really rewarding for them. So it's just good to know about it, to pass on information to potential individuals you're supporting who have a particular talent in art. Next is Sport England, which again is one that's very popular and you've probably seen their logo everywhere. They invest in sports and physical activities to make it a normal part of everyone's life and making it accessible for everyone. They look to fund projects providing opportunities for groups facing barriers, such as people living on a low income, people with disabilities or long-term health conditions, older people, people from culturally diverse communities, and so on. They have their movement fund, which recently launched in April, and you can apply up to £15,000 on that. So they also have an eligibility quiz on their website, which is always helpful because it will save you that time of potentially applying and being rejected over eligibility. So a staple one to know about. Next, we have the Cloth Workers Foundation, which awards capital grants to charities in the UK and for non-profit organisations. which can demonstrate that they work across one or more of their defined programme areas, which is listed on the screen. They fund large and small projects, and the size of the grant will depend on the scale of your project. They don't fund non-capital projects, but it's worth, if you have a list of funds that you keep, just to keep an eye on, it's worth having this one on there for capital projects. They have their open grants programme, which is a rolling programme, and capital projects can be defined as building work, so purchasing, construction, renovation, refurbishments, fittings, fixtures, equipment, vehicles. This includes like minibuses and cars. Though they are unlikely to fund the total cost of a minibus or car, but they can contribute towards it. And they aim to make a decision within 8 weeks for projects less than £10,000. So a fairly quick turnaround, but definitely one to note down for capital projects, as a lot of funders don't like to fund capital projects. Next, we have another funder who funds capital projects as well. This is the Garfield Weston Foundation, which is a family-founded grant maker that gives you money to support a wide range of charities across the UK. In total, they've donated £90 million each year, which is a lot. The funding amount, again, depends on the scale of your project and organisation. They have their regular grants, which has no deadline, which is great. And they also have their major grant programme, which is reviewed 8 times throughout the year. So there is deadlines for that one. They do fund capital projects. They fund operation and core costs, so overheads such as rent and salaries. And they also fund specific projects that you're doing. Their website also has an eligibility quiz, grant guidance, and anything that you would need. It's all there. It's a good one to know about. So next is the Scops Art Trust. I think I'm saying that right. So their goal is to help people understand, participate, and enjoy the arts, particularly the performing arts. They seek to fund projects which widen access and have a lasting cultural impact on the community, and they are keen to work with smaller to mid-sized organisations. Larger organisations are welcome to apply, but they prioritise smaller and mid-sized organisations. The Trust has a focus on grant-making approach to each free grant 3 times per year. So each round has a different theme, and the one that's coming up in August focuses on music groups and children's music education. However, music education with children will be welcome at any round, even if it's not within its specific theme, you can still apply. And they have a really small document containing their grants guidance, so I'll share that with you guys after. So yeah, I'm not sure if you've heard of this one, but it's a good one to apply to it, particularly if your organisation supports the performing arts in children. So next we have the Bernard Family Foundation, who are another family grant-making foundation which supports charities in England and Wales working to raise the quality of life and provide greater opportunities for young and older people and people with disabilities and people who are disadvantaged. Their trustees decide on the amount to be given, so you don't need to give a specific amount unless there's a reason for needing a specific amount. They have 3 levels of grants, so that's above £20,000, up to £20,000, and below £5,000. They are interested in funding projects aligning with these 4 categories, which are communities, education, health, and social welfare. So again, it's quite broad in what they're looking to support. So definitely keep this one in your record of potential funds to apply to. Here is another good funder that you might not have come across yet. The Barchester's Charitable Foundation is a registered charity that help older people and adults with disabilities across the country, and their focus is on connecting and reconnecting people with others. They support applications that combat loneliness, enable people to be active and engaged. They also have grants available for individuals, again, really worth knowing about for your beneficiaries. So they have grants available for individuals to help with mobility equipment, and you can apply for up to £1,000 for that. So that's also good to know. And it takes up to 10 weeks for your application to be processed, so not too long in comparison to other funders. They aren't open for applications right now, but they will be back open on the 1st of July. So good one to know about if you support people who are older than 55 and also supporting people with disabilities. So there are so many funds out there, and it would be impossible to share them all with you, but hopefully you have an idea of that there's a large range of funding out there. And here I've just listed some other funds which are definitely worth looking at. So you've got your ESME Foundation, which offers unrestricted core and project grants. The YAP Charitable Trust, which funds projects supporting older people, children, social welfare education, so quite a wide variety. The West Ham House Fund, which funds organisations supporting non-vocational educational opportunities. The KFC Foundation, supporting youth projects. BBC Children in Need, which I'm sure you've all heard of, they have several funding streams supporting children. The Chester Blue Coat charity, funding projects that help tackle the root cause of poverty. So these are just the main funds that I think it's worth you knowing about. There are so many more, and in the next couple of slides I'll show you some ways that you can find more funding for yourself. So before we get into that, here are some just quick ways to raise funding outside of applying for grants. So you've got your donations and crowdfunding, fundraising activities such as running, cycling, cake stalls, events, that type of thing. There are also websites such as Just Giving, GoFundMe, Local Giving, which you can link to your website and social media, and you can do it for a specific project, or you can do it just in general for unreserved funds. And it's a free resource, and it's really helpful just to get in some income that's outside of grants. PR and communication, so it's important to use the tools that are available to you, which is social media. It can be quite difficult navigating social media when you're not familiar with it. We're looking to do, at Northamptonshire Community Foundation, we're looking to do a webinar on social media for smaller organisations. So I'll send you the information of that when we know more, but it'll be useful to, because there's so many opportunities online, it's just knowing where to look. So donors, one-off donors are absolutely great and really important. Turning these donors into reoccurring donors is even more valuable. So making sure that you're building up good relationships with them and sharing updates about their donations. So just sending maybe some case studies and some pictures, just to make it a more fulfilling process for them. And local businesses, so you utilising their corporate social responsibility and seeking out for financial support, in-kind support such as volunteers or venue space. It's really good to ask. The old saying, you don't ask, you don't get. Businesses might not be advertising the opportunities they're hoping to get involved with, so definitely reach out. Never have anything to lose. So now on to resources. On the left, I've listed the 4 main funding finders, which I think are really, really useful. I personally find the GITS grant website really useful, as it splits your grants into categories. For example, it's got capital projects, it's got young people, it's got a section on grant supporting disability. So it's really quick and easy for you to go on and have a look. And I've recently discovered Grantway, which is a really good resource. As you can log in and make an account and you can save any grants you come across. It also has a searching tool, so you can search and narrow your search right down. It's quite saturated with loads of funds, but like I said, luckily it has that tool where you can refine it right down. But it's really useful to know about, because when I discovered that and I went on there was funds that I've never heard of, so it's really good to be aware of what's available for you. All of those funding finders I've mentioned are free, and to summarise, Get Grants is great, and so is Grantway. The other two are also really good, but the ones I spoke about are the easiest to use. So other useful websites which I've listed on the right hand side, these offer similar support to what your local infrastructure organisations do, but you might not need to book a meeting in with someone or talk to someone. Instead, you might find it useful to go on a website where the information's already there if you're just looking for an overview or something. So those are the top four organisations which are very helpful to use, so definitely keep them saved. I'll of course send out the links after the presentation. And so that wraps up my presentation today. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day for coming, because I appreciate that you're all very, very, very busy people. And like I said, I will share the slides and contact details in case you wanted to discuss anything further. And if you haven't already heard of who Northamptonshire Community Foundation is, I'll stick around for a bit in case you have any questions. And I hope you found this session useful. And if you haven't, please let me know, because it will help us decide what webinars to design in the future. So any feedback you can give on what you would like to see in the future would be really, really useful. So if you've got any questions, I'll try my best to answer, but I'm not an expert on the national funders, but happy to try help. Our contact details are on the screen, but I'll be sending you a follow-up email anyway. Thank you, everyone.